Joyce Owens, Art Renaissance Woman. We're here today in one of your capacities as art director, curator of the Chicago State Gallery. Can you tell us a little bit about what's been happening here and why it's so exciting and people are talking about it?
Well, today, as a matter of fact, we're having an opening reception for Robert Sinstack, also known as Bobby Sinstack, whose family owned until very recently the Chicago Defender. He's a noted photographer. His photographs have been seen all over the world. We were able to get him to exhibit works, and most of his photographs that he's showing are from the 1960s and 1970s, although there are few exceptions, but they work as a very cohesive body of work for him. We are showing 29 photos. Some of them are archival prints, and some of them are computer-generated prints, and it's a beautiful show.
That's fabulous. Maybe if you can do a little housekeeping for me in terms of the gallery, where it's located, the hours, the exhibit run for Bobby Sinstack's show, and all of the particulars, anyone who wants to see the show, how to get here, where to go, etc.
Very good. The President's Gallery is in the Cook Administration Building on the 3rd floor. It's open, the hours are weekdays only, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a daily basis. And if people have questions, they can call 773-995-3984, which is the Art and Design Department, which sponsors these exhibitions for any additional information.
Excellent. So now let's get into the fun stuff. You are, of course, a revered artist, professor, curator, and the list goes on. And many of the collectors and artists like myself respect you as one of our, I guess you would say, foundation iconic artists, living but still doing a lot for the community. What do you feel is one of the most important pieces or elements that Robert's exhibition brings to this gallery?
I think it's his exhibition, especially selecting images from the 60s and the 70s primarily, that include photographs of people that our students may never have seen in person, of course, but some of whom, like for example, Dr. Martin Luther King is presented in a couple of photos here, and of course he died before most of our students were even born. Then there's a photograph of, and I asked a lot of the students as they were coming back and forth and I was working in the gallery if they recognized this particular person. There's a photograph of Joe Louis with the boxer, the Brown Bomber, with Fidel Castro. And so the question is, how did Joe Louis and Fidel Castro end up in a photograph together? Right. Well, it was at the Bud Billiken Parade, where all kinds of amazing things happen. There's another photograph with James Brown, James Brown, and another boxer. Guess which one?
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, absolutely, good guess.
Wow.
So, a younger Muhammad Ali. And there are numerous photos like this that show celebrity-type people of great importance in scenarios that you may not recognize, you may not have expected to see them in. And then there's a photograph of Dr. King in the March on Washington, which people may have seen, but not through the eyes of Bobby Sinstack. So it's a whole different view. Then the other thing that I really like is that there are, I like that they're the celebrities, but he has a lot of very ordinary people. There's a sharecropper in Mississippi with his daughter leaning against this shack that's shown in a montage of other photographs from that period that Bobby saw in 1972. I actually put it on my Facebook page as I was inviting my Facebook friends to come out to see the exhibition, and people were asking, was this happened in 1972? People were living like this in 1972? So you see a slice of life that you wouldn't have a chance to see if you hadn't been to Mississippi in 1972. And then there are beautiful photographs, like there's a boy with this brown-skinned boy with beautiful big eyes. There are two girls who are in a photograph together. I think it was at, I think it may have been in a political event where they were listening to somebody speak. So there's a wide, even though there are only 29 photos, it seems like it's not a lot, but there's so many stories in these photos that people should see.
And lastly, I'd like you to talk a little bit about fine art photography within the realm of fine arts. Painters like ourselves and sculptors get a lot of attention, but oftentimes fine art photography is sometimes the stepchild. Other than, you may hear Gordon Parks, but when you talk about a Bobby Sinstack and Vandersea, when you talk about a Bobby Sinstack, it's part of a family of strong names, but the medium and the genre itself, you could talk a little bit about that and why it's important for collectors.
I could talk about it in a general sense, and I could talk about it in a personal sense. My uncle, who died in October, is Jack T. Franklin, who also was a photographer and also well known, and also worked for all the newspapers. Our family didn't own a newspaper, but in Philadelphia he worked for newspapers, and he ended up with about 500,000 negatives in his archive. I don't know the number in Bobby Sinstack's archive, but when you're out every day, taking these photographs and documenting these occasions, like Bobby documented the Selma to Montgomery March, so did my uncle. What has happened over time is that photography has become very important because it does document our culture. And it's been, actually, I would say that it became a fine art form probably in the 20s, and it became more and more more and more accepted in museums as time went by. Like maybe I don't remember the exact dates, but museums started getting curators for photography. Formerly LaSalle Bank, the former LaSalle Bank had a special curator to manage their photography collection. So more and more, and even as an artist, if you look to see what exhibitions are being mounted or what galleries and museums are calling for fine art, you'll find that a lot of it is photography. Deborah Willis, who's a MacArthur, they say they don't like to be called genius, we call them MacArthur geniuses. She's a photographer. She wrote a book on black photographers, and I know my uncle's in it, and Bobby probably is in it as well. And that was published by Harvard University Press. So photography is no longer the stepchild. Even in our department, we have a very small art department, we now have a photography minor. We teach documentary photography, we teach color photography. We're one of the few, probably, labs that still has a dark room, so that students can learn to use the chemicals and produce their photography. But it's very important as a way to not only document our history, but also to create fine art images, just like we do with our painting. Abstraction, every genre that we experience in painting or printmaking or drawing, photographers also can experience. They can do, collages. They can do. Bobby has montages in his where he's pieced together a number of images to make one whole image. That is called a montage. He's even used photographs by other photographers and assembled them together for some historic events that happened at the Defender. So, yeah, photography's definitely found its niche in the realm of fine arts.
Excellent. And I just want to say thank you for going the extra mile, continuing to promote the arts in Chicago in a way that is very important. And thank you for giving our audience the time, and I look forward to seeing your interview as an artist, because the multiple hats that you wear, I think it's so important that we also take time to pick your brain and show the fingerprint of who you are as a painter.
I appreciate it, Andre. I appreciate a lot of things about you, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Till next time.